Hey, it's Tristan here with US Party Company, and we're here with talking with Balloon Josh from Neverland Balloons and Face Painting. So this is basically, we ask questions and we kind of mix it up and find out what's going on in the industry. So tell us a little bit
Let's do
about
it.
what you do. Obviously, you do balloons and face painting, but tell us a little bit about what you focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're based out of Houston, Texas. So majority of our events we do balloons and face painting. We've recently started getting into balloon decor as well. Not we don't do too much of like the walls and the big decor builds, but just basic arches, columns, things like that. So we started in garlands and things. So we do balloon decor, balloons and face painting. We have a couple of restaurants that we do on a regular basis, and recently we've also started doing balloon deliveries. So we can just do like a bag of balloons and deliver them at someone's houses. But that's been most of our things, and we also do teaching and stuff. So I'm an instructor for Balluminati on Facebook, and I'm also an instructor for fabatv.com, and I was an instructor for the ACE convention in Austin last year, and I'll be an instructor at the ACE convention this coming year in end of August to early September, assuming the world is normal again by then. Hello?
Well, sorry about that. My camera kind of froze, I think.
Not a problem. Not a problem. But yeah, that's who we are.
Tell us about how you're going to weather the storm, and what are you doing to take care of business?
Yeah, well, so again, it's just kind of been, every single time there's a new announcement, trying to adjust. Like we were talking earlier, just about adjusting the business plan, right? So majority of our business is private events. And then when all of this started coming down, all the events were canceling. So then we started adjusting, and I picked up some more restaurant gigs, and I was doing more restaurant gigs and started doing balloon deliveries. And then the restaurant, they were closed for indoor seating. So then we had to adjust again. And then we started doing curbside delivery. So when people would come to the restaurant to do their to-go order, I was outside with my balloons, just making balloons for people who are in their cars waiting to pick up their to-go order. And so then when they announced that shutdown, and now we have the stay-home order, no more balloon deliveries, no more curbside balloons. So now I'm just trying to do more videos and YouTube and private classes and trying to push things like that. And also reaching out to clients that we've worked with in the past and clients we want to work with, and talking with them about planning a grand reopening of their business. So reaching out to corporate clients and saying, look, when this all settles down, you're going to need to do like a grand reopening to get people in. If you book us now and put down a deposit now, we'll give you like an additional credit towards your event. So trying to do different things to try and get that money income now. But also part of what we're doing is something kind of we've been doing, is making sure we're doing a good job of saving and a good job of budgeting, so that we have a couple months of income set aside. So we're not, scrounging for money, so to speak, right now in order to eat or pay our bills.
I'm actually, the whole system just crashed literally. So I don't know if you all know, but we're all working from home. So stuff is just crazy right now. So, I mean, I literally can't even hear you. I'm trying to use the delayed.
Oh, no.
Somebody's trying to call. The computer literally is just going crazy right now. So this is just totally funny as can be right now. Cause I'm literally trying to use your words in your mouth, what's coming out. So let's find out. It's just so strange. This one is just funny. We'll be probably erasing this one. Not even gonna lie. But
Fair
tell
enough.
us, do you have employees? I mean, obviously you probably have employees that maybe laid off or whatnot. But tell us how many people you work with to kind of support the industry.
So right now it's primarily me and my wife. I do the balloon, she does the face painting. And then we have a bunch of other artists that we subcontract out. So they're not as official W-2 employees of our business, but there are a bunch of different artists in the Houston area that we will use for events, that we will subcontract out and give them work. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to give them any work because we don't have any coming in. So, so we're just trying to do our best to stay afloat and try and hang on to as many of our events as we can. And when people cancel, rather than cancel, to transfer their deposit to another event, so we can still work with those artists and still hopefully be able to give them work once things kind of settle down and get back to normal.
Well, I think it's kind of back to normal, the connection and everything. So we got that fixed.
There we go.
It was just crazy. All right. So, it's just funny because it throws me all off course. Like, it's literally like, in your head, you kind of got it all figured out, and then like everything just goes haywire. Like, today is the day of like haywire. They just announced like nobody in Massachusetts is going back to school to May 4th. So, May the 4th be with you, and all that good stuff.
Wow.
So it's kind of funny to think like, wow, are we that far ahead, And
here in Texas, we're shut down until April 3rd.
I mean, that's not as bad. I mean, we were at the 6th, but I mean, they must know some. Well, all right, let me back up. For those of you who don't know, that don't live in Massachusetts, we had, I want to say, and don't quote me on this, anywhere from 650 to 800 new cases today. We only probably had 1,100 cases in the last 2 weeks or whatnot. So we've really ramped up the amount of people who have it. So I see where they're trying to take precautions. It's hard. It's hard to make those decisions for the school district. So Josh, I know you had some educational videos earlier in the day. Tell us what you think is most important right now when it comes to educational videos and whatnot.
So I think that the things that artists need to be focusing on right now from home, as far as educating themselves and growing, is now is the perfect time, I believe, for people to be learning more about the business side of what we do. I think there's a lot of balloon artists and face painters and entertainers who are great at the business or great at the art side of it, but not as great at the business side of it. And in their defense, a lot of times we're so busy doing events and responding to clients that we don't have the time to spend on Instagram, Facebook, Google, things like this. But now we've got all the time in the world. So I feel that is where a lot of people could really benefit, is focusing on growing your Instagram, growing your Facebook audience. If you don't have an Instagram or a Facebook, making one, creating TikTok videos, getting a Google My Business page, getting a Yelp business page, building your online influence. Because what I feel is going to happen is that there's going to be a lot of people who are hurting for business during this time, and their business is going to be going down. And then when things get back to normal, the businesses who are going to rebound the fastest are the ones who have the strongest online presence and who have the most visibility on social media and online and on Google, who appear higher in search results. So it's a lot about getting that search engine optimization, that SEO, and those keywords, and learning to understand that. And now's the perfect time to educate yourself in that aspect of our business, the actual marketing, advertising aspect. And also, today's the perfect time to be working on customer loyalty, because also we want all those customers who have used us in the past to hire us again as soon as this is over, right? So now's the time to start reaching out to them, reaching out to your past clients, seeing how they're doing, seeing how they're being affected by this, offering to help if there's any way you can help, but different things like that. And then offering them discounts, saying, look, as a valued customer, we want to offer you, special discount to help during these rough times. To, if you hire us at this event in the future, we'll, give you a 50% or $50 credit or $100 credit, something where they feel, wow, this business really values this company really values my business as a consumer. And I feel the companies who really lock into that and are able to show their customers now how valuable they are the businesses that'll keep those customers and rebound faster.
So as far as like independent restaurants, do you do independent restaurants?
Yes, we do. Right now we're not, because here in Texas, we also have the stay-home order. So like I said, we were doing restaurants, and then we actually picked up a couple more when all of our events started canceling. And then we started doing curbside orders. And we were outside doing balloons for people who were picking up their to-go orders. But now that there's a stay-home order, all that's canceled. But I have reached out to a couple of restaurants and said, look, once things start getting back to normal, why don't we partner with you to do a grand reopening, and we'll do a balloon arch, and we'll do balloons and face painting, and I'll make a giant balloon motorcycle, and we'll do all of this stuff to kind of fill your restaurant with customers. And so we've already had a couple restaurants really showing interest in that, and said that, once they get a better idea of when they're going to be reopening their doors, they definitely want to partner with us to do something big. So that should hopefully also help us, because then they're doing a big push, but then so are we, and we're getting our business cards out there and everything like that.
It's funny because somebody asked me for a quote for Twistin', and it was actually a chain restaurant. And we tried to go there to order food last night, to be honest. And let's just say there was 50 cars waiting to pick up food, and I was like, wow, this place is popular. And it was funny because I have the information for the marketing girl. And so she had already reached out to me. And it's funny because I reached back out to her after I had, said, how long should I give an order from the time I want to order it and pick it up? And she kind of said, well, 2 to 3 hours. And I'm thinking, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, that's a pretty good problem to have in this given situation.
Right.
And it's funny because then I offered her kind of a deal. And I was like, listen, we can do it weekly, 4 times a month for the first month when you're ready to open again for this price. And she's like, oh my God, I love that. So it's being creative and really just trying to follow up with the customer. You're right. I mean, maybe the restaurant hasn't used you in 6 months to a year, but they still need you at some point. They're going to need you to entertain families that want to come back through the door. And let's be honest, it might not be something that, like, if everything cleared on April 15th or whatnot, that everything would be just fine. It could be maybe 2-3 weeks after that, because by the time they have to, set up food stock and bringing employees back, I mean, that's a process by itself. It's just a ripple effect. But it's definitely something to think about. When customers are appreciated, they generally will come back.
Well, I think the other thing that I think will help people going through this right now is to understand not every business is being negatively affected right now. Now, a lot of us in the entertainment industry, I'd venture to say pretty much everyone in the entertainment industry is being negatively affected. But like grocery stores are not being negatively affected. Like, grocery stores right now are making a ton of money. And so you can even partner with grocery stores and say, look, we know that everyone's stressed out right now. We know that people are, coming to the store. We could create for you a nice balloon arch for your grocery store just to add something fun and lightens people's spirits. And again, grocery stores are going to have more money to do that now than they ever have. So I would say, offering to do balloon decor for grocery stores would be a great opportunity right now. And they're not the only ones. I mean, there's many companies who right now are actually doing better and having more business. CVS, Walgreens, things like this, pharmacies, drugstores, even Targets and Walmarts are, see, because even with all of this, Walmart is still considered an essential industry because they have things like food and a pharmacy there. So, but because of that, all of the rest of their departments are open. So, like, for example, Best Buy is not considered an essential industry, essential store. So when they say you have to close all essential businesses, that closes Best Buy. However, people can still go and buy video games and DVDs and things like that from Walmart, who's still open.
Yep.
So that's the thing to think about is, there are still companies who are making money and who could benefit from things like balloon decor. So it's just, again, that's what I was talking about to you earlier. Like, we have to adjust. The world is changing, and after this, it's not going to go back to being the same. Like, things aren't going to snap back and be to exactly the way they were before the coronavirus hit. Things are going to be different. The world's going to be different. It's just a fact. We may not like it, but that's just reality. And we have to be able to adjust with that, and adjust our marketing, adjust our target clientele, and realize that for at least a couple months, we're going to have to focus more on the corporate clients who weren't negatively affected by the coronavirus and the quarantine and all of that.
Right. I mean, it's kind of funny to think that the supermarket is kind of making bank. I mean, it took us a good week and a half to find toilet paper. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, it was eager of being up at by 8 a.m. to at least make it to Target or at least try.
Right.
I mean, I think the
Yeah.
reality is, I mean, you kind of nailed it on the head when it comes to CVS, Walgreens, all those. So the thing that I feel that's very disadvantageous to those big not grocery chains, but drugstores, they only usually
Yeah.
get a delivery one time a week. So it's kind of hard for them to even be in the distribution channel. I mean, at least supermarkets are getting
Right.
delivered every day. I mean, that definitely helps.
Right.
It's crazy to think, you know. But I would say that there's a lot of good coming out of this. I would say that there's a lot of people giving valuable insight, sharing, such as yourself and many others in the industry. And I think that's being seen across the board. I've
Yeah,
actually
you're seeing a lot more selflessness, and I think people are showing their true colors.
Yep.
I feel like, you know, the people who have been selfish all along are showing that, and the people who really care about others, I feel that's coming out too.
Absolutely, and I mean it's a great backseat to see what really can happen when things kind of happen like this. Not that we want them to happen, but they're actually
Right.
pretty cool to see it in a way. Unless you're a parent and your child is home for the next month, like I can see, like in my head, some of those parents right now, like literally ready to hang their head, you know, by a towel.
Right.
I won't mention no names, but I got a little list of some. But it's funny. What do you think the biggest obstacle for any balloon business will be, whether they're small, big, or medium size? And who's going to be the ones that really come out of this like in a good position?
So I think the hardest thing coming through this for businesses will be are the the people who aren't growing and learning during this time. Meaning, some artists are just taking this time to grow and learn new designs and better themselves and network and grow their online following. Some people are doing an excellent job of that right now,
Yep.
and some people are just pretty much taking this as vacation and just sitting at home doing nothing. And those are the ones that, when they get back, like they haven't done anything. So I think it's going to be hard for them to get up and running. And like I said before, I mean, when you have people who, if there's companies who have spent majority of their income is coming from private birthday parties, there's going to be a lot less of those because, I mean, the common man, right? Everything from, you know, upper middle class and down, they've all been hit so hard with this. A lot of people have, I mean, completely lost their savings, lost their 401ks. Some of them have gotten evicted. You know, people are getting hit hard, and so there's going to be a lot less, I think, the big extravagant private birthday parties that sometimes people have been used to. So I think we're going to have to shift, and people are going to have to focus more on corporate clients, and the people who make that shift the fastest are going to be able to adapt. But I think the biggest hit of this is going to be on the distribution companies like yours, like things like All American, like Having a Party, and you know, people who their income is dependent on balloon artists buying. You know, if those companies shut down, well, then it's an issue of not only when this is all over and things start getting back to normal, you're like, great, now I'm starting to get work. You call, order your balloons, the company isn't there anymore. Or the other thing is going to be, let's say on May 5th, right? Let's say May 5th, they everywhere across the country lifts the bans, lifts the quarantine, lifts the stay-home orders. Everything's getting back to normal. What's going to happen is you're going to have all of these balloon artists calling their distributors to get their balloons, and they're going to be out of stock real quick because everyone's going to be trying to restock at the same time. And so what I told people in a class yesterday I was teaching was, you know what? Order your balloons today. Because one, it'll make sure you can get what you want, and you don't have, if you wait until everyone else is reordering, they're going to be out of stock. But also what it'll do by ordering your balloons today, it'll help the companies that you order from to stay afloat, to stay in business. Because right now, if they're not making any money either, because it's not even like you can, because it'd be one thing if this was just a United States problem.
Yeah.
And then you could say, you know what? this is affecting the United States. So what I'll do is, until this blows over here, I'll just focus my marketing on Asia, and I'll ship balloons to Asia, or I'll ship balloons to Europe. But when this is a global thing, they're canceling events worldwide. So it's not really like you can even shift your target clientele and ship balloons to balloon artists in other countries, because everywhere balloon artists are losing work.
You know, it's a valid point that you said that, though, because for us, I mean, as someone who actually buys in product, we had a conversation with a supplier in Spain. We literally got on the phone Monday after we talked to her on Friday, and she told us straight up, she was like, we're closing Wednesday because of the coronavirus. And listen, if there's nobody to buy your product, what's the point of being open? And I talked to her on Monday, and I had a serious conversation. You know, it's sometimes hard to talk to a supplier when especially you don't speak nothing but English. But actually, she spoke some pretty good English, actually. And she was pretty honest with me. I said, will these bunny heads go out today, or will they make it here by Friday, you know? And she said, let's just basically let's cancel the order. Let's not do this. Let's not have you send the wire. Let's get back in the summer. And it's like, what? You know what I mean? Easter's not canceled, but a lot of what people are doing is canceled. And I think she had every right to say that. I mean, we're waiting on a shipment of a UPS expedited package from somewhere in the world that literally keeps saying, sorry, in Anchorage, Alaska, it didn't make the truck. Sorry, in so-and-so, it didn't make a truck. I mean, it's all airplanes, obviously, but I mean, the reduction of just that. And for us to be able to get the supply is going to be a problem. I mean, money doesn't grow on trees. Credit is obviously a lot harder to get than it ever has been. May you benefit from this. Depends on your situation, but you better use that money wisely if anything's given to you. That's all I can say. Because if you don't,
I think what this is showing is that it's really showing how big the gap is between the upper class and everybody else. Like, you know, because at the end of the day, here, the people who've had money this whole time, the millionaires and billionaires, like, they're not really hurting so much right now. You know,
right?
They're actually gonna. Usually, what happens in times of crisis like this, like we've seen in previous times during the Great Depression and during like housing crashes and stuff in like the 90s, we've seen what happens is whenever there's a huge economic upset, the people who had the money before, they just get more because they know to invest more when the market's low, and they don't take anything out because they don't need to. What happens is everyone else in the middle class, they panic and like, oh, I need my money now. And they pull everything out and then they lose it all. And then the people who've got the money buy it all up. And so I think what we're going to see out of this is the companies that had wealth and the individuals that had wealth before this, they're going to be even more. And the people who didn't, they're going to be even lower. Like, it's just going to widen that gap.
Yeah.
And that's why, I just encourage people, don't panic, because panic is never good for anybody. Usually when people panic, they're not thinking things through. They're making mistakes. They're being selfish, because that's just what happens when we get into panic mode. We're like, gotta protect myself, survival of the fittest. And the biggest thing I tell people, breathe, calm down, breathe. Like, this isn't gonna, I really doubt this is gonna be how our world ends, This is gonna eventually, I don't know, I don't have a deadline, I don't have a timeline, I don't know when, but I just cannot see this lasting forever. I've had, some friends of mine who are balloon artists saying that they fear that this is going to last for the next 2 years. And I'm like, I don't see that. I don't see that being realistic.
No, I don't think so.
But even if it does, even worst case scenario, panic is still not going to help anybody. So the best thing I can say is, we have to adjust, we have to adapt. And at a certain point, we're going to have to learn how to, become our own, picture this. If everyone's staying at home, their kids are captive audiences and they don't know what to do with them. They're just putting their kids in front of the TV or in front of the computer. And I've seen a lot of balloon artists who what they've been doing is basically creating their own kids' TV show on YouTube. Yep. And basically saying, you know what, sit down and every day at this time, guess what? This is going to be the, Balloony Toony show, and you're going to be able to sit and watch the Balloony Toony show every day at noon. Like, I think that's where we're going to even have, if this stays much longer, we're going to have to get to where we become the new kids' TV shows.
You know, I think that's a valid point because so there's a open air market that happens near us, and they actually talked about it today. They talked about focusing on the makers, featuring them, and having them share tidbits. So, like, if you are a person who tie-dyes T-shirts, like, what kind of advice or what kind of at-home things could you show that people might have that they could do something with now while cooped up? So there's a lot to be thankful for. And they actually, one of them said, I wouldn't mind having someone who's a hairstylist give opinions. And then I
Right.
saw one on the news, and she basically was saying how, you know, she's giving style and advice and all that. And she said on the newscast, she said, "Oh, I made a video of me clipping hair in layers, but I didn't post it because I figured, well, if something went wrong, it'd be on me." And I thought about that for a minute because it was in line with what this particular person was asking. How can I clip my son's hair? I mean, do you want to take that chance or not? And she said,
Right.
I decided not to post it. I filmed it, but I don't think it's the best interest in that. So it's funny that I saw that right after I had heard they were going to do that, which is great.
Right.
Hey, maybe, you know, one maker is going to show us how to make the special soap they make, you know. It could be a cool opportunity to kind of learn inside the maker's place. So there's definitely a lot to learn. And in that conversation, I got thrown in there and I was like, who said I wanted to do one? You know what I mean? And then they said, it's funny because one of them I'm not going to say yet because I'm actually thinking of challenging my twist and balloon friends on it. But the second one I'll say, the second one was, I'm trying not to spill the first one. So the second one was actually, just making a simple balloon dog about tying a thing, twisting a thing. And I'm like, really? Like, to us, we're like, that's just basic, you know? But it's funny because they're like, oh, people would love to see that. They'd love to see how you put a dog together. It's like, they generally see you put a dog together, but it's going to be funny how many videos, how many things pop up from all this, you know? And,
yeah.
And you got to make people happy at the same time. So what is your plan in regards to dates? I mean, let's face it. I mean, look at the airlines. I mean, they don't even know what's going on. They're like, oh, we're extending this through May 30th and all kinds of different dates. And nobody really knows what's going to happen. Like, we don't know. So what is your, like, rescheduling policy? Are you rescheduling now, or what's your approach on that?
So I'd say, and this is where I go to, like, when I was talking about adapting, I think this is something where your approach has to change the longer this goes on. So back in February, when we were first, which seems so long ago right now.
Forever ago.
But back in February, when we were first getting the first wave of people calling to cancel, right? What we would tell people is, you know what? Our deposit is non-refundable, but it is transferable. You can just transfer your deposit to any event in 2020, right? And that was our policy. And for the most part, we didn't have anybody who had a problem with that. And so for like 2 weeks, whenever we had a cancellation, this was back in February, and someone would say, hey, we want to cancel. We'd say, look, the deposit's non-refundable, but it is transferable. You can transfer it to another event in the future. But then we started getting further into March, and now people are in panic mode, and people aren't thinking clearly and aren't responding rationally, right? So there was a client who reached out and said, hey, I'm going to need a refund. And I said, well, our deposits are non-refundable. And the same thing I'd been saying to everybody that everyone had been okay with, right? And then this client, when I told her my deposit was non-refundable, but you can transfer it to another date, she flipped out. She's like, you're taking advantage of me in this crisis. I'm going to call the district attorney on you. And I'm going to like. Now, again, I don't think she was actually going to call the district attorney,
right?
But for real, this lady was unhinged, right? And she was like, I'm going to call the district attorney. I'm going to let all my friends know, the person who referred me to you, I'm going to let them know I'm going to write a bad review. I'm going to destroy your business. Because we have to understand, like, that's the culture we're in now. Whereas if someone feels you've wronged them, it's not enough to just say, well, you won't have my business anymore. Now it's, I have to make sure you don't have anyone's business anymore. I have to destroy your business, destroy your personal life. You know, we have to understand that we're in that cancel culture where people are like, it's not enough to just, it used to be you would just boycott someone and you wouldn't go there anymore. Now it's, I have to make sure they're not in business anymore. And so we have to understand when people are in panic mode, they're going to go to that place much quicker. So Fortunately, I was very quick to, whoa. Hey, I think there was a misunderstanding here. Of course we can give you a refund. Like, I think you misunderstood what I said. And I was able to backtrack to be like, you know what? Most of our clients, what they've been choosing to do is to use their deposit on a future event. So that's what we recommend, because most of our clients have been choosing to transfer their refund or transfer their deposit. But if you really need it back, of course we can give it to you back. And so I went back and forth with this lady for about half an hour. And by the end of it, she was like, "Oh, thank you guys so much. You guys are amazing. When we do need someone again, when this all goes back to normal, we will definitely be hiring you." And I even convinced her to order a bag of balloons. So she paid me $50 to like drop off some balloons at her house. But I was able to take an extremely angry client who was going to call the district attorney on me and end up getting her to say, I can't wait to use you guys again. Oh, and by the way, I'll order a bag of balloons. Like, I was able to actually make a sale off of it, which that's where we need to be careful not to be too sensitive. And just, I could have responded defensively and being like, you know what, I'm just upholding my contract. You agreed to this contract, and I would have been in my right to do so as a business owner, saying, look, this is what the contract says. This is what you agreed to. It's non-refundable.
Right.
But as business owners, we have to understand people are in panic mode. And so we needed to adapt. So now our new policy is, look, we'll tell people we recommend keeping it and transferring it to a future date. But if you need the refund, of course, we can give you that refund. And so far, of all the events that canceled, I think we've only had to issue 3 refunds where people actually needed their money back that they'd already paid. So most of the events, then, of all the other events, they've agreed to let us essentially keep their deposit as store credit and use it towards a future event. But the other thing, we're now, the farther in we get to this, the more people are wanting their refund back, right? Which then that's hard for us, because it's not only because we've already deposited that refund, right? Mm-hmm. So now it's not only are we not getting the money from the event that we were planning on, but now we're also having to give back money that we'd already deposited. So now we're going in the hole, right? Yep. So to avoid that, what we're now starting to do is basically offer an incentive. So now to say, look, you paid a $100 deposit. You can transfer that $100 deposit, or we can refund that $100 deposit to you now, and you get $100 back. Or you can transfer it to another event, and we will add an additional like $50 credit, right? So saying, if you don't take the refund, it's basically like when you walk into GameStop, right? And if you sell something to them and you say you want cash or you want store credit, you get more if it's store credit than you get with cash. That's essentially what we're going to be doing now, is saying, look, we can give you your deposit back as a refund for the same value as what you deposited. Or if you're willing to keep that deposit with us and transfer it to a future event, we'll give you an additional credit. So it basically incentivizes them, and then they have to pause and say, I can get this money back, or if I keep it with them, I end up getting more in the future. So it's trying to offer incentive. And the longer this goes on, the more creative I think all of us are going to have to be with our refund policies and cancellation policies to be understanding, but to also make sure we're not losing our shirts, right? And so that's kind of what we've been doing with this. And again, just trying to take it case by case.
So on that note, obviously this is a big situation. Everybody across the world, doesn't matter what kind of entertainment world you're in, whether you're the disc jockey, whether you're the MC, you're the efficient, you're the balloon guy, you're the balloon twister, the face painter, the list goes on and on. And we all have contracts. How can we learn from this event and actually change our contract to almost add extra protection should something like this happen again?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if there's ever a perfect solution to that, because even if you have the most ironclad contract, there's still going to be the people who are furious and be like, I know I signed that, but I don't care, right? Now, I think there are things you can do to ensure that and protect you legally speaking. However, there's a difference between protecting yourself legally and protecting yourself socially, meaning you could be legally in the right to keep a deposit, or let's say you could get to where you have this ironclad contract and they have to pay everything up front and you get the 100% payment up front. However, something like this happens and people start asking for refunds, they aren't going to care if they signed a contract or not. It will not stop them from writing a 1-star review on Facebook, writing a 1-star review on, Google. Like I remember there was a big thing in Dallas. There was a wedding photographer who her business got destroyed because a couple wanted a different cover on their wedding album than what they had paid for and what they had agreed in their contract. And she said, no, I can't give you that cover. That's not what you paid for. That would be this much extra. And so they actually called the news and everything, and they destroyed her business. And she was like one of the top wedding photographers in Dallas, and they just destroyed her business because she wouldn't give them a free photo cover, right? And she was actually able to end up suing them, and 10 years later ended up getting like a couple $1 million settlement as restitution for everything. But I think if you were to ask her, hey, if you could go back and just give them that cover for free, would you do it? I'm pretty sure she would say, yeah, I would do that. So that's what we have to just understand. Like, and like when and this is, I always find like sometimes us as artists, I'll see stuff people post and they're trying to claim like they're so surprised. Like, I don't know. I've never been surprised by a client. Like, the crazy ones. I mean, like from the very first phone call, and we'll mark it down in our planner. We'll be like, this one's going to be interesting, right? You put a little asterisk, like, don't ask this person to leave a review because you don't know what they're going to say, right?
It's true.
And so
reviews are scary.
When you're talking to someone, and just whether it's person to person or over the phone, and you start hearing that crazy coming through, you just need to react to those clients differently. And I think that's what we can just all learn from this, is that it's not a one size fits all.
Yep.
When it comes to contracts, it is a case-by-case basis, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. I think you need to have a standard contract that, and that is one thing just in general, that it still amazes me how many balloon artists don't use contracts at all. But I do think we do need to have a standard contract that you're using for your clients, but then also be willing to adjust that contract on a case-by-case basis to fit the situation, if that makes sense.
Right. So I know we talked about we have all this time for Facebook, Instagram, open these accounts, work on our website, all this good stuff. As a professional who obviously works in Texas, where it's generally warm most of the year, so I'm assuming there's jobs year round, unlike in New England where we're not outside all the time. Tell us a little bit about how easy it is to move all these people once they're ready to be moved, and then how do you prevent the mass chaos from all these dates coming together? So let's say July 18th, this big date that everybody has. How are we going to handle that situation?
Well, see, I think that's the big fear, just in general, is like what you keep hearing about is the secondary spike.
Yep.
Like, and here's the thing is, you have to, people talking about flattening the curve, right? That's the thing you keep hearing about on the news and the media, like, is all this, that the reason that they're doing all these shutdowns is because instead of having this giant spike that you have, you flatten the curve. But if you look at those, when you flatten the curve, it does make it last longer, right? Now it's less severe and less people get sick and hopefully less people die, right? That's the goal, is less people get sick, less people die. That's the goal of all of this. But the thing you also have to remember is that when you do that method where, less people get sick and less people die, it also stretches it out and makes it last a lot longer than if you don't do anything. Then more people get sick, more people die, but then it's over faster. Now, I'm not saying that's the better option, but the fear is when you lower that curve and it goes longer, if you release those bands of meeting together too soon, what happens is some of the people that were in quarantine are still sick and are still carriers. And so then what happens, then you open everything up and you start having all these meetings again and conferences and people start going to restaurants and bars and everything. But now they're not being cautious because they think they're okay because they're like, well, I've been in quarantine for 2 weeks, so I'm fine. And then what happens is then you have a secondary spike, and then you still have that spike that you were trying to avoid because you let everybody out. And so I will say the thing moving forward is just, all we can do is, I think, it still amazes me how many people don't wash their hands. Like, for real. Like, how many people don't wash their hands? How many people don't use hand sanitizer? How many people will blow their nose into their hands and wipe it on their pants. Like, for real, as adults, like, it amazes me how many people still have just gross hygiene, right? And so I think, especially as us as artists, when we're face painters and we're touching kids' faces, or balloon artists and we're touching things and handing them to people, we need to be a lot more diligent of just washing our hands between every event, using hand sanitizer between every kid, just being careful and being, having good hygiene. If we have to sneeze or cough, do it into your elbow, not into your hand, right? Just different things that I think, just as a society, we just, if we're able to have good hygiene, not only would it hopefully or potentially curtail coronavirus, but then also all the deaths that we would normally have of the flu, hopefully it would help, lower those numbers as well. But, just looking at the different numbers I've seen from different scientists, like the amount of time and the severity of the lockdown that you would have to put in place to avoid that secondary spike, it's got to be pretty extreme. And the other thing that I think that, it's just, you also have to understand just the reality of the situation. And I feel like the longer this goes on and the longer period of time people are shut in, the more people are just going to start saying, screw it. I don't care. I don't care if I get sick. I don't care if I get everyone else sick. I can't stay home anymore. Like, I feel like the longer this drags out, the more people are just say, forget the quarantine. I don't care.
So I guess in closing thoughts, what kind of advice can you give to people who are very panicked, very stressed out, very at the end of how this is all going to come out? Like you said, it could be a long time, and people are still going to the supermarket, still buying stuff, but we also have to be careful.
Yeah. As far as like just moving forward, I would just say, a lot of it, kindness goes a long way. And I would, my hope that comes out of this, I would like to see that coming out of all of this, that we become a kinder world, that we become kinder people, that we are more likely to put others ahead of ourselves, right? That's what I would like to see come out of this. And as a general rule, I think, my thing to people who are in panic mode is just realize, this is scary, yeah, but there's been a lot of scary things in our world, and we got through it. We came out the other side. The Great Depression, World War I, World War II, the Spanish flu. There's been thing after thing after thing that, at the time, people thought, this is it. This is going to wipe out the world. This is going to end it all. We're done. And, look at where we are now. Like, I have no doubt that we're going to come through this. But just the question is, how, right? And I think that people have to realize that what they say and do now will follow them, right? And they still have to be able to live with themselves on the other side of this, right? So I think, the people who are, punching old ladies in the grocery store to steal some toilet paper out of their cart, like you're going to have to go on and live with your life and live with that knowledge that, when crisis came, how did you react? And so I think, it's just in our best interest to just be kind to one another, be safe, but also, just realize, life moves on, and, it has to move on. Everything has a time, right? There's very few things in life that I see as permanent. And so I just think that, we're going to get through this. And it's just, we have to just make sure we're being kind and understanding and welcoming of other people through this whole process. Because that's the only way we're going to make it through.
Well, I want to thank you, Josh, from Neverland Balloons and Face Paint, for joining us, taking your time out of nothing but time. So
I was going to say, my busy day.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.